Subscribe to the Chess Horse Mafia.
Yo, 231 views on the newest video and 29 subscribers. Let's fucking go. Who's the goat? You're the goat. You're the goat, okay? And I'm the goat. Technically, come on, like, give me a pass on that. I made the video. Um, now I'm famous. That's awesome. It's crazy. I checked in like when I was like 12 hours old and it had like 40 views. And I was like, wow, this did so well. And then I got to work analyzing and recording and editing this new video. And I checked back in at like 2:30 a.m. and it said like 230 views. That's insane. Also, just want to say, quick disclaimer, if any police are watching this video, okay, officer, I have no idea what the Chess Horse Mafia is, okay? I'm not a member nor a leader of the Chess Horse Mafia. You gotta believe me. I did not start an underground organization for chess players that are obsessed with horses. It wasn't me. Um, also, if any Mafia members are watching this, like real Mafia members, this is just a joke. Please don't come for me, okay? Because if you do, I will in fact run for my life. Alright, let's get into the video. Hello, random fellas. This is my London system opening theory for black and how to equalize in almost every line. I think I finally accomplished the goal that I set out to do, which is equalization no matter what white plays. But this has been a rather difficult task for me because there's really a lot of lines that the computer says are equal, but they're really not. Like it's much easier to play for one side, or it's slightly better for white, you know what I mean? So yeah, you should know that the London system is kind of a hard system to make theory against because like there's a lot of moves that can be played at different times and in different move orders. So a lot of this is more so ideas rather than theory. Whilst it is theory, it's computer moves, you know, engine lines. You're probably not going to see all of these lines in your game, so just remember the ideas from them, all right? So, with that being said, let me switch my overlay and let's get into this analysis one more time. I've tried recording this like 5 times. It's really, really difficult because I continue adding more and more lines. So this, let me flip the board, sorry, we're playing black. This is the setup that we're going to be going with. I like this setup for black because there's no move order trickery. Okay, so if you play d5, this still works for you, right? If you play c5 at some point for some reason, it still works for you. Sometimes there's some move order trickery here with this, and then if you play like e6, oh, now the London system line doesn't work for you. No, it does because we include e6. So long as you don't play knight c6 at some point, then this will work for you just fine. So, yeah, this is the setup that we're going to be seeing. We're going to start with the main variation here first, which is c3. Okay, so very important detail, we are not going to play knight c6. Okay, you'll see why that's important in a moment. We're going to play bishop d6. I really love this move. So we have a lot of ground to cover here. I covered literally everything. All right, bishop g3, bishop takes d6, bishop e5, bishop g5. I covered knight e5. I covered bishop e2, bishop d3, bishop b5 check. I covered knight d2, knight bd2, sorry. I mean, like, I covered everything I could, all right? I also covered d6, c5. Yeah, we're going to start with bishop g3 because it's the line that you're going to be facing a lot. London players love to play this bishop g3 move because they're hoping we're going to give them the open h-file. We are not going to do that, unfortunately for them. We're going to play castles. Let's say knight bd2, b6. This is going to be a system that we are going to play against the large majority of these c3 setups and even some other setups. It's a really, really strong move because we can play bishop b7 or bishop a6. It helps defend our center. It's just a really, really nice move and nice inclusion with the pawn on e6 blocking our bishop. Bishop d3, for example, again, like a lot of these move orders, I can play bishop e2 instead and all this stuff. Yeah, bishop b7, quite accurate. Let's say bishop takes d6, queen takes d6, knight e5, knight bd7. In this line, we want to keep our bishop open because that's quite nice. That's not how bishop moves. Yeah, and this is just equal for black, if not better. A lot of these positions are considered equal for black, but I actually like black's position better than I like white's position. If white does not take on d6 and instead plays castles, for example, then we can now take on g3 because there's no longer a rook on h1. So h takes is really not that dangerous, something like knight bd7 again, and just a good position for black. And also f takes is very, very strange. Whilst yes, white does get the open f file, it leaves behind some positional weaknesses, and also you take away from the center, which is exactly what they tell you not to do. If something like knight e5, instead of castling or doing any of that, just play queen c7, apply more pressure. Castles, knight c6, let's say white plays f4. White really doesn't want that knight to get removed. Then there's a very important maneuver here for black, knight e7, which is really quite nice because we're just removing this knight, making sure that it cannot be traded, because this knight on f3 is going to be kind of a superfluous knight, as they call it. That's a difficult word, because it also wants to go the e5 square, but it can't because there's already a piece there. And yeah, we have knight f5 as an idea, we have knight e4 as an idea, not right now, but at some point. Right? Very nice position for black. So that pretty much covers bishop d3. And that was relatively simple. Let's cover bishop takes d6 next. So queen takes d6, bishop e2 for example, castles, castles, b6, knight e5 for example, bishop e7, knight d2, knight c6, let's say knight df3, and again knight e7, right? This knight e7 maneuver is very, very good. And we get very similar positions in the b6 setup. You know what, let's cover all of the bishop moves first, actually, just to keep it as simple as possible. Let's say bishop g5, h6 is what we're going to play. Obviously, if bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, this is great for black. So bishop h4, knight bd7. The move orders here are very important. Knight bd2, castles,
is better
bishop
for
d3.
black.
White wants to play e4 at some point, so we play b6, e4, and e4 isn't actually like the soundest of moves for white because we can take on d4. Let's say takes back, and takes here. Obviously, if they take back with the knight, there's some technical stuff here with knight c5. I'll leave you to figure this out on your own. I don't have theory for this. C takes d4, d takes e4, knight takes, and bishop e7. A very, very accurate move, and this position is pretty much just better for black. Let's say castles, bishop b7. Just a very nice position for black. Bishop e7 is a really nice move, getting rid of the pin. Yeah, that pretty much covers knight bd2 here. There is bishop d3 here instead, and you might be wondering, you said the move order was important here. Is there a difference? Yes, there is. Here we can play c4. If we want to be extra accurate and even push for advantage with black, c4 is a good move. b5, knight bd2, queen c7, e4, we take it, knight takes, bishop takes, rook b8 because our rook was hanging in the corner. Bishop g3 is the move that white should play, and I think that this position. But there is a nice trap here. Let's say white castles, f5. And all of a sudden, whoops, you gotta move your bishop, g5, and your bishop's getting trapped. I think you can figure this position out on your own. You're probably gonna win some vast amounts of material, but let's say d5. I think castles is a nice move. D takes e6, knight c5, knight takes g5 is not good, by the way, because our attack on the king is just too fast, right? Bishop takes h2 check, and knight takes e6, getting our pawn back, attacking the bishop, just completely winning for black. So yeah, they shouldn't fall into that trick. They should play bishop g3, and it's just an equal position. So that covers bishop g5. Final bishop move, bishop e5. You can play knight c6. Let's say knight bd2. Very important here, do not take with the knight, okay? Because they will take back with the pawn and fork you. You play bishop takes e5, knight takes, pawn takes, knight d7. And this should be a very comfortable position for black. We have a bit more control over the center, I would argue. This e5 pawn, while yes, it is taking away some of our space, right now it's a weakness, right? They need to play f4 or something to make it not a weakness. And there's no foreseeable attack on the king side, even with the e5 pawn constricting our space. So it's just a good position for black, easy play. That covers bishop e5. Now let's move on to knight bd2. So now we're going to see the next pawn structure change, which is bishop takes f4, e takes f4, queen d6. Hitting that f4 pawn, g3 should be played in order to guard the f4 pawn. Queen a4 check, also an idea, but after bishop d7, let's say d takes e5, queen takes e5, queen b3. We can actually just play castles. They can't take on b7, so best is to play bishop b2, knight c6 castles, and this is just a good position for black. If they do take on b7, our attack is very fast after knight c6. Let's say they play a pass, rook fb8 is incoming, that b2 pawn is falling, so you have to play knight b3, queen d6, okay, and your pawn on f4 is falling, we want our pawn back. So let's say they don't play a pass and play the best move, which is queen b5, then queen d6, declining the queen trade, queen a4, you need to defend this pawn and get out of the way of the b file. Rook fb8, bishop b5 is the best move, and after this, knight e7, takes on d7, knight takes rook b1, knight c5, the queen has to move, and we're going to win that pawn on f4. If they do not play bishop b5 and instead play a move like rook b1, then we have e5. And we're blasting through the center very, very quickly. Let's say they make the mistake of taking it. After knight takes, the queen has to move. Let's say queen d4, knight c6 back is very clean, and our attack is very, very, very fast. So that covers that line in queen a4 check. The only other thing they can really try here is queen a3, but after b6, our favorite move, g3, defending the f4 pawn, knight c6, bishop d2, castles, castles, a5. It's just taking more space over on the queen side. It's a relatively pleasant position to play for black. Just make sure you don't play c4 at any point and hang your queen. That would be pretty bad. If they don't play g3 and instead take on c5 for some reason, just play b takes. They have to play g3 anyway, and I don't know how this inclusion helped white. And if they play knight e5 defending the f4 pawn, then knight c6, let's say bishop e3, and castles, knight df3, knight e7. This maneuver, again, very, very good for black. Castles, rook fd8, and this is just all right position for black. Right? You can play something like queen c7 at some point, you can push c4 through, start expanding on the queen side, and white doesn't really have that much play on the king side as far as I can see, especially with our knight and our bishop and all of our pieces controlling the f5 square. It's a pretty pleasant position for black, in my opinion. What else? Oh yeah, if they play g3 instead of bishop e3, castles, bishop d2, you can play queen c7, getting out of this pin, and knight takes d7, knight takes d7, castles, c takes c4, c takes d4. White has this weird pawn sacrifice with c4, but no human's gonna find that. Really, really weird one. Alright, so that covers queen a3. So, like I said, g3 needs to be played here. b6, our favorite move, bishop g2, castles, castles, bishop b7, rook e1, for example, knight c6, knight e5 is a blunder because it hangs the d4 pawn. So instead they should play some other move, but realistically it's kind of a difficult position to play for white, and I quite like black's position. These b6 setups are very, very nice for black, in my opinion. Okay, so that covers knight bd2. The next move we have to look at is, let's say, d takes e5, bishop takes e5, bishop d3 for example, castles, knight bd2, knight c6, castles, bishop d6. Very, very accurate move. Now that they've castled, we want to trade these bishops. Bishop takes d6, queen takes c6 is obviously fine for black. And if bishop g5, then h6, bishop h4. Obviously, taking on f6, also fine for black, if not better. And bishop e7, yet again. This is another common idea here, just removing the pin, and the position is, yet again, equal or even slightly better for black. So that covers d takes c5. Next, we should look at, oh yeah, let's look at knight a3. This is a relatively weird move, but it's actually somewhat logical. They kind of want to help prevent the b5 expansion. So castles, bishop e3 for example, take on f4, take back, c4, bishop c2, knight c6, castles, and we can actually play b5 anyway. The point is, they cannot play knight takes b5 so easily because rook b8 is incoming. And knight e5, don't allow any counterplay, just play bishop d7. Knight e7 is also, you know, the pattern, right? But we want to develop our bishop in this specific position. a4, defending the knight, a6, knight a3, we take on b2, and this is just a great position for black. If something like rook b1, you can take it, queen takes, queen c7, rook b8's incoming, and just a nice solid position for black. So they shouldn't play knight takes b5, they should instead play knight e5 instead, for example. But after bishop d7 again, this is just a good position for black. They still can't take on b5. Eventually, maybe we'll defend our b pawn, probably, and we can start expanding with a5, b4, and it's very simple play for black. Okay, so we've covered all the knight moves, all the bishop moves, we've covered d takes e5. So let's look at bishop b5 check next. So knight c6, castles, bishop takes f4, e takes f4, queen b6, bishop takes c6, b takes e6, and okay, this is another common thing you're going to see in these kind of lines. We have the open b file, quite a pleasant endgame for black. After queen c2, it looks like it's a bit complicated for black to play, but after just a few more theoretical moves, like h6, creating left for the king, rook f1, a5, taking space, h3, bishop a6, I think that this is quite pleasant for black, even though the engine says that it's equal or even slightly better for white. I don't really believe. I feel like black has the active plans, right? Putting a rook over here and take some, action on the queen side somehow. Though admittedly, it is a bit difficult to make happen right now. After a move like rook 81, which is kind of a winning move, rook fc8 is apparently best. Yeah, these engine moves are a bit too hard to follow, but let's say rook fc1 and rook ac1 and rook fb8 is good, and we have activity down the b file. Very nice position for black. So that covers bishop takes c6. If instead they play something like knight a3, unfortunately after c takes d4, if c takes d4, then bishop d7. Apparently this is quite good for black. So queen takes d4 is best. Queen takes, knight takes, bishop d7, knight takes c6, b takes c6 is obviously good. So white should play something else. White also cannot take here because of b takes c6. And this is just equal or even slightly better for black. Though, unfortunately, we did have to trade the queens off in the process. I try my best not to get endgames in this theory. So that pretty much covers bishop b5 check, right? Yeah. Oh, one last thing to look at was a4, c4, we should play, b3, c takes b3, queen takes b3, and all of these theoretical lines go quite long, so you might not actually get this in your games, but castles, knight bd2, queen c7, knight e5, obviously queen c7 was hitting the f4 pawn, knight a5, queen c2, and b6, our favorite move yet again, and black has equalized again. Other than that, if queen a4, you can just castle, knight bd2, and it's a pretty good position for black, as you can tell by the engine evaluation. Apparently there's some trick here, I don't know what. Ah, yes. The engine likes c takes d4. Sorry, I should probably include that. Yeah, after knight bd2, the engine likes c takes d4 and thinks it's pretty good for black because there's some tactics here. All right, that's all you need to know. Okay, so that covers bishop d5 check. Bishop d3 is a move. We go bishop takes f4, e takes f4, queen c7 this time, g3 defending the f4 pawn. Queen d2 is also an option, but I think it just gives equal positions for black. And the reason why we played queen c7, or one of the reasons at least, is because it's better placed in the c4 variations. You can play b6 here, should be noted, but I think that c4 is very accurate to give black even a slight advantage if we play well. Bishop c2, b5, knight bd2, and knight c6. And the position looks quite easy to play for black, even though white has control over the e5 square. I think that it's quite alright for black. Let's say that white plays castles. For some reason the engine doesn't like this move, but I think it's quite a human move to make. Then we can play a5 and our position is easy to play. It's very nice. Let's say knight e5 instead. Then castles a3 is supposedly the best way to play for white, trying to stop our play on the queen side, but after something like a5, I still think that it's quite good for black. So that covers bishop d3. There's bishop e2 as well. We can take on f4, e takes f4, queen c7 again, g3, b6 this time. knight bd2, castles, castles, bishop a6. This is just extra accurate. We want to trade off the bishops, and queen e2, knight b8, which is quite the funny maneuver, and our point is just where we want to put our knight on c6, that's why we played knight b8, and this is equal or slightly better for black, as always. I don't know the exact reason why bishop a6 is so much more accurate than bishop b7, but I do know that the engine approves of it, so I'm just going to go with that. And bishop b7 is also playable, though. It's just to be extra hyper accurate. Finally, there's knight e5, and you can play knight c6. Let's say knight takes c6. You can play b takes, bishop takes d6, queen takes c6, and we've already seen endgames that look similar to this, or middle games, whatever you want to call it. And if they don't take on c6 and instead play knight d2, queen c7, putting more pressure. Now we're threatening to win a pawn here, right? Knight df3, c4, quite a nice move. This is just making sure their bishop can't come to d3 and kind of cramping them for space. And bishop e2, castles, castles, and knight h5. Quite the nice move. Now they need to take on c6. We can play knight takes f4, e takes f4, d takes c6, and this is just better for black because we have the bishop pair, open b file, all to play. This is just the engine line. Obviously, in human games, there's going to be like different move orders than this, but now you know the ideas. So that's pretty much all the lines that I have here. We covered everything, right? We covered bishop e5, we covered bishop takes d6, we covered bishop g3, bishop g5, we covered knight e5, we covered bishop e2, bishop e3, and bishop e5 check, and we also covered knight bd2 and knight a3. The final thing we have to look at is if white does not play c3. There are two moves here for white, knight bd2 and bishop e2. So let's start with knight bd2. So it actually took me a while to find a good setup against this, because the point is if we now play bishop d6, then there's d takes c5, bishop takes c5, and c4. And whilst black does equalize, it takes like 18 moves of theory, and it's just a bit uncomfortable. So I decided to not put bishop d6 in here. There's also the option of knight c6, but if white plays c3, then we have transposed to our main lines, except we've included knight c6, which is quite bad because we want to play b6, bishop b7, and we want to have our bishop to have an open diagonal. So that's why I decided to play queen b6 here in our theory, and we're not actually trying to take on b2, believe it or not. We just want white to make some kind of decision. Hey, Editor Jacob here. I just wanted to very quickly say that if they play some weird move like bishop e2, then we're not actually taking on b2 either. We're just going to continue with knight c6, and this will kind of transpose into some of the other stuff you've seen after, like c4, castles or something. Thanks. So rook b1, bishop d6, let's say d takes c5, queen takes c5, b4, queen c7, bishop takes d6, queen takes c6, c4. We take on c4, bishop takes, castles, castles, b6, there's our favorite move. Let's say e4 for white, knight c6, rook e1, an important move, knight d7. We want to stop white from playing e5, right? And after queen b3, for example, we can play bishop b7, or you can play one of the knights to e5 here if you want, but I think bishop b7 is quite a clean move, developing the last minor piece, and it is equalizing for black yet again. If a4 instead of rook b1, there is some opportunity to take on b2 here, but I decided to not include all those complicated lines. Just play knight c6, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, knight b3, bishop b7, bishop d3 for example, knight b4, quite an important idea, bishop b5 check, bishop d7. Obviously if white takes here, it's quite good for black. So white should play something like knight f d4, and after a6, bishop e2, castles, castles, this is just a good position for black. So instead of bishop d3, if they play bishop e2, then just play a5, castles, castles, and this is again a good position for black. And if they play a5, finally, then queen d8, bishop e2 for example, castles, castles, knight h5 now. Very aggressive way to play, and you've already seen a lot of the ideas here, right?
If they go bishop b5, we're just going to play knight takes, knight back to f6. And if they play bishop g3, then we're going to play knight takes g3. Let's say h takes. It's a really good position for black. And if f takes, then they're leaving weaknesses behind, and it's really not that great. So that's it for this a4 line. Other than that, there's d takes c5 here, but after bishop takes c5, I don't have that much theory here for you. It's just a good position for black. I don't know what to tell you. If they play a weird move like queen c1, then just play knight c6. Let's say c3, knight h5. Now we actually have the time to be very aggressive with black because they've wasted a tempo on queen c1. So bishop e5, we're going to take it. Knight takes bishop d6. This is a really good position for black. If they take with the deep pawn, it's important to remember to play g6. Otherwise, your knight's going to get trapped with g4, right? No squares for the knight. But after g6, it's just a good position for black. We're going to reroute our knight to f5 someday, maybe. And yeah, it's just quite nice. So if they don't play bishop e5 and they instead play bishop g3, we can play knight takes g3, h takes g3, c takes d4, c takes d4. If they play e takes, then you have e5. Quite a nice pawn sacrifice, and we are attacking very quickly with bishop c5 if they take it. So they should play c takes d4, bishop d7, bishop e2, rook c8, putting the rook on the same file as the queen. Also, obviously, there's a threat to win a pawn here, etc. So they should play queen b1, and a calm move, g6. Because after queen b1, they were lining up on our h7 pawn. It's not exactly a threat to take, but g6, we're just playing this because we want to move our bishop one day. You'll see in the other line, queen b1, it's the same thing. Knight c6, c3, knight h5. If bishop e5, you take it. Bishop d6, it's all the exact same stuff. Let's say they try bishop e2. Just bring your knight back to f6. It's a great position for black. And if they take with the d pawn, play g6 again. And it's another good position for black. So let's say they play bishop g3 instead. If they play bishop to g3, then you can take it. H takes, c takes d4, c takes d4. It's the exact same reasoning with the e5 pawn sacrifice. So bishop d7 yet again. And in this line, if they play rook takes h7, we play rook takes h7, queen takes h7, and their b2 pawn is hanging. So their rook is attacked, they have to play rook u1, queen takes a2, we're officially up a pawn, and if they play rook takes b7, a nice final move here, long castles, very accurate, and black is just better here because white has a bad pawn structure for endgames with the double pawns here. This cannot be used to make a passed pawn pretty much. Black has a passer, which is going to be very difficult to stop. And this is borderline winning for black. Also, white's queen is completely out of play. Everything is defended. There's not anything going on over there. And, there's also bad king safety for white. So it's really just a really good position for black. So instead of taking on h7, they should probably play something like bishop e2. But I mean, this is not exactly a desirable position. I mean, what do you even want to play here with black? I guess g6. We can do the same stuff as before, and if they castle, then we can play bishop d6. A very, what do you say? Accurate move. You could also play bishop g7, but you don't need to. It was after bishop e2, g6. If they try to play a3 here, you can play bishop g7, and it's quite a good position for black once again. Okay, so that covers bishop g3 here. So that's all the lines I have in knight bd2. Our final tricky sideline here is bishop e2. And here I will recommend bishop d6 again. So d takes c5 was their whole point, right? Otherwise it's going to look very similar to the theory with c3. Bishop takes c5, c4. This was their whole point. Castles, castles, d takes c4. If knight e5 is the best move, if they play bishop takes c4, then you can play knight h5. Very aggressive stuff, and we've already seen a lot of the reasonings here, but it's a little different. Bishop e5 hitting our queen. We play queen takes d1, or takes d1, h6. And okay, this is probably just an equal position for black. Black has equalized. If bishop e5, then we play knight d7, knight bd2, we can take on e5, take on e5, play knight f6 back because our knight was hit. And this is again an equal position for black. And if bishop g3, then you can take it. H takes, and it's again a good position for black. They still can't play f takes because it even hangs a pawn in this line. So that's why they can't play bishop takes c4. Instead, they have to play knight e5, for example. There's also some like queen c2 stuff, but you're gonna have to figure that out on your own. Knight d5, bishop d3, b5, a4. Yeah, so b5 is like extra accurate. a4, f6, kicking the knight back, take on a4, and no matter what they do to take, knight b6 is going to happen. Queen c2 is best. You don't really want to play something like bishop e2, because then queen takes d1 becomes a problem, and the issue is we are hanging on to our extra pawn, and this is just clearly better for black. So yeah, you have to give up the bishop pair, and after queen e7 defending our bishop, rook c1 is a bit forced because bishop a6 is a problem. Knight d7 defending our bishop, knight d4 let's say, you can just take it. Queen takes, bishop e7, queen takes a4 for example, knight b6, and this is just an equal position for black once again. You don't have to remember all this theory, but it's just the ideas and the positions, I guess. I really went all out with the theory here. But yeah, that covers every line. We covered everything, right? Knight bd2, bishop e2, and then our c3 main lines. And overall, I'm very happy with everything that I've found here for black. I think I'm pretty proud of my work, and these b6 setups equalize for black pretty easily. Yeah, that's about it. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you want to say something cool or ask any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Subscribe to the Chess Horse Mafia.